Are there any other Republicans that would have your vote?
DeSantis.
DeSantis? And what about Ted Cruz?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a strange guy. All right, well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
So we're seeing that. We're seeing more and more people come. A lot of people believe Ted Cruz is a strange guy, and I got to be honest, it's one thing I agree with them on. Ted Cruz is very unsettling to look at.
Texas Senator Ted Cruz, one of the least liked people in American politics who somehow still keeps getting reelected, is apparently considering another presidential run.
Some news this morning from an Axios report that Senator Ted Cruz was laying the groundwork for a potential 2028 presidential run. Could I get your reaction to, could you see yourself supporting Senator
Well, he's a friend of mine. I mean, I haven't spoken to him about it. It's a little early. It's 3.25 years. That's a long time. But he's a very good guy. He's a very good friend of mine. You remember we had quite a campaign against Ted, and it worked out quite nicely. We'll see, where are we? Oh, we're in the old one. But I'm not that surprised to hear that.
You might be making some news. Axios led its morning newsletter with this headline: Scoop, Cruz eyes 2028 run. Senator Cruz, where are you on that?
Reporters are going to write headlines that get clicks and get eyeballs. I got a job. It's representing 31 million Texans, and it's fighting every day for 31 million Texans. And I'll tell you right now, the wins we are getting are historic. The one big beautiful bill you were talking about just a minute ago, I was blessed to write major portions of that bill.
He's being awfully coy about it now. He maybe seems to be enjoying the attention. Maybe he's testing the waters here a little bit. Ted Cruz is my senator. I've obviously never voted for him, and even here in Texas, people don't seem to like him. Even people who voted for him, even very MAGA people, they all just seem to tolerate him more than actually like him. Still, the state keeps him in the Senate. Ted Cruz, who, if you're unfamiliar, you may know him more as a podcaster these days, has almost become known and notorious for how unliked he is. Not just by the American people, not just by his constituents, not just by the President of the United States, not just by his colleagues, but even, it seems, by his own family.
It seems like everything is staged, even hugs.
Hugs, and I love
Proud of you, Joey. I love you.
I love you too.
I love you, Ted.
I love you, Mom.
Love you too, dear.
I love you. I love you. One more hug and we're out.
Also, is he the Zodiac killer? Probably not, but the fact that there's even a question is funny. You might also know him by his nickname, Fled Cruz. The nickname was bestowed upon him because in times of need, in times of crisis, rather than staying behind and helping his constituents, rather than governing them and leading him, he tends to flee. During the polar vortex that broke the Texas power grid and led to Texans across the state freezing to death in their homes, Ted went to Cancun. When he was spotted at the airport, he blamed the trip on his daughters. Then, an alleged friend of the Cruzes leaked private messages within a group chat where Ted's wife was busy organizing the Mexican getaway. When Ted Cruz faced an incredible backlash for the trip, his supporters said, well, what did you want him to do anyway? He can't just go and turn back on the power grid himself. He could have done what the Democrats did. They organized on the ground. They set up warming centers and made sure people were able to access them safely, even providing transportation for the elderly on slippery roads. They worked the food banks, and they helped Texans weather both the literal storm that we found ourselves in, but also the bureaucratic storm that state-level incompetence and greed had conjured and directed at its own people. Notably, Democratic Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from New York City flew down to help out, and the Democrat who lost the Senate race to Ted Cruz, Beto O'Rourke, did so much more for Texans during that time than Ted Cruz did. And then Ted Cruz was reelected again in 2024, this time defeating Democrat Colin Allred for the position. Colin Allred lost by a much larger margin in 2024 than Beto did in 2018. Between the two candidates, Beto worked much harder on his campaign, and politically he was significantly further left than Allred, especially for 2018, especially for Texas, and I think that context matters. Even with his progressive politics, again, I'm using the word progressive progressive relatively for 2018 and for Texas, Texans in deep red districts who had never ever voted for a Democrat before voted for Beto O'Rourke and his platform. Beto fell just a couple thousand votes short of defeating Ted Cruz, replacing the incumbent. We were so close. But then we backslid a little bit. In 2024, the Democrats ran Colin Allred, a mediocre representative with a mediocre platform. He's a centrist Dem, and I don't mean that as a compliment. And despite being a former football player, he was very boring. As a Texas resident who at the time was bombarded with text messages begging me for campaign donations, I can't really tell you what Allred stood for or even what his overall platform was. I can't tell you which issues he championed during his campaign. He's actually running again right now for John Cornyn's seat, which is up for grabs in 2026. And again, he's already campaigning, but for what, I don't know. I don't know what his platform is. If he has a platform, he should maybe consider talking about it. All of that to say, I'm not surprised that Ted beat Colin Allred, but I will say that with a caveat. The polling for almost the entire race between Allred and Ted suggested that the two candidates were neck and neck with each other. Ted beat Colin Allred by a much larger margin than what was expected. The Senate race here in Texas is another story that's worth talking about, but if it goes badly for us here, it would be bad news for the entire country. Worst case scenario, there would be a Senator Ken Paxton in D.C., which would be bad news for everyone. Best case scenario, we'll get Senator James Tallarico, which I think would be great news for everyone. Tallarico had a minor scandal recently that I don't even want to get into because it all just felt like a weak attempt to smear a candidate that posed a real threat to the party establishment and to the Texas establishment. If anything, though, it seemed to backfire a bit because it seemed to endear more voters to him. But of course, Ted Cruz is looking to get out of Congress and into the White House. His presidential aspirations have never been secret. Everyone knows he wants to be the president. I really don't understand why he's even a serious candidate, specifically one that his own party takes seriously, when, again, I can't say this enough, no one likes him. Now, as Republicans attempt to envision a future in a post-Trump world, they're having to redefine their party and what they stand for. They're looking for a new leader without any obvious bench. Some of them are seeking to either align themselves with or against the Trump administration and the whole Trump era, and some, one in particular, are even apologizing for being terrible people for the last 10 years. Ted Cruz seems to be going the route of aligning himself with Trump, which is an interesting choice, and it may prove useful to him in Texas, but across the rest of the country, there's less indicator that that will work out well for him. He wants credit for contributing to the big, beautiful bill, but that is the most unpopular bill we have ever seen. Even with as ill-informed as Americans tend to be about our government and our politics, people still know that that bill sucks. Without it, though, I'm not really sure what else Ted has done for the American people, apart from podcasting and perpetuating culture wars. And on that front, it's only a matter of time, and I imagine that that time is fast approaching when the American people tire of the culture wars and move on from its worst advocates like Ted Cruz. All right, that's it for me. If you got anything out of this, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks.